Look at these majestic ducks. So carefree, so content. But Psyducks, on the other hand, are sweet little chunky boys with horrible headaches who need our help. Plus, since the famous Pokemon director and composer Junichi Masuda's favorite Pokemon is Psyduck, we owe it to them to support the cause. On top of that, we got so many requests in the last video to investigate Psyduck's situation across the Pokemon series that there's no choice but to go out and see what's going on. That's why today, we're going to track down and catch Psyduck as quack as possible across every Pokemon game. Fair warning, you better bust out the Advil now, as these ducks are in some diverse locations and won't make our journey an easy one. We start our Psyduck search in Kanto with Pokemon Red specifically for a reason we will discuss in just a moment, but before getting into the game, make sure to set the text speed to fast and animations off. We name ourselves and rival a single character along with any Pokemon we use during the run. Speaking of, the first things to do in the game is pick up our starter, that being Squirtle, who is optimal for the early game and a great choice to carry us overall. Until we reach Route 22, where an even more optimal Pokemon for speedrunning lies, that being Nidoran Male, which has a 5% encounter rate in blue and a much more reliable 40% in red, this being the reason for our game choice. You can find up to a level 4, and I quickly found a level 3, and stuck with this to save our encounter luck for the duck. For now though, Squirtle will remain our lead as we head north towards Viridian Forest. Inside, we can take advantage of the fact that there are special grass tiles in the forest which contain no encounters. All we have to do is follow along the path, battling the single required bug catcher before making it out. We then head straight over to take on Brock, swapping Nidoran to the front before the battle in order to start gaining levels. Squirtle makes quick work of Brock's team with Bubble, winning us our first required badge of the runs. From here, we stop at the mart, quickly change our battle style to Set, and sell the TM we won to buy more potions. Now we head to Route 3, which contains many mandatory fights, one of which, Short's Kid, being risky and worth saving in front of. The Rattata can do plenty of damage and comes alongside an Ekans with Wrap, which is overpowered in Gen 1 since it stops you from attacking. But with some potions and a bit of luck, we beat Short's Kid as well as the rest of the trainers on the route, ending our time here by picking up the first flying Pokemon we see, a Spearow. North of us is a Pokemon Center we use before heading into Mount Moon, where we will find many power-ups for our Nido. The first of which is the Water Gun TM to the west of the entrance. From here, we head towards the rare candy and escape rope on the eastern side of the floor. Then, after taking on a few more trainers and evolving, we teach our new Nidorino Water Gun before taking out the hiker with it, grabbing a Moonstone, and climbing down to the lower floors. All we need to do now is head over towards the first rocket, use our Moonstone to get a fully evolved Nidoking, and make quick work of them, and the following nerd, before exiting Mount Moon much stronger than where we started. We then head straight into Cerulean, heal up at the center, and pick up a hidden rare candy behind the house. Now it's time to take on our first rival, being careful of sand attacks from Pidgeotto and horn attacking the rest of the team with ease. This opens up Nugget Bridge, where we make quick work of the first 3 trainers before using our 2 rare candies to learn Thrash at level 23. This new move will clean up the rest of the bridge, another silly rocket, and most of the following route on our way to Bill's house, where we will help him return to normal and are rewarded an SS ticket for our trouble. And luckily for us, it just so happens that we can use an escape rope from within Bill's house to warp back to Cerulean. Thanks to this quick trip, we can focus our efforts on the next battle, which is likely the hardest of our run, with Misty. Saving beforehand is a necessity since this battle will require quite a bit of luck. All we technically have to do to win is thrash our way to victory. However, Starmie will always pose a challenge since it's both capable of beating us in 2 hits and pretty likely to score critical hits. For those who don't know, Gen 1 just so happens to have a crit formula that takes into account a Pokemon's base speed rather than the 1 in 16 base odds of future gens, and Starmie's blessed with a whopping 115 speed stat, tying with Persian for the 4th best crit rate at 22.46%. All that said, the battle will likely take a few tries, but eventually we get a usable string of moves and outspeed Starmie to get our second badge. With the hardest battle out of the way, we heal up and teach the newly acquired Bubble Beam. From here, we can head towards Vermilion, first running into a rocket who gives us Dig, which will come in handy soon. We can then head on to take down the 2 mandatory trainers blocking our entrance to the city. Once in Vermilion, we stop by the shop to get some repels and paralyze heals before stepping aboard the SS Anne. Our boating time will be short though, as we simply head to our rival for a similar battle as the last one, grab Cut from the creepy captain, and make a quick stop to snag another candy. Now we only need one more thing to get into the 3rd gym, a Cut user. And since we picked up that Spearow as a flyer, this task becomes a breeze as we can trade Spearow in the house above the gym for a non-Psyduck, that being Farfetch'd, who can utilize Fly later and Cut right now to get us into the gym. Speaking of, inside the gym we need to find 2 trash cans to unlock the gate, the first being any of these 8 highlighted, and the second being either pointed to in the diagram or the top left can with equal chances between the options. We luckily win the 50-50 and find our second can first try, letting us take down Surge in a flash with Bubble Beam and Thrash. This victory nets us the powerful Thunderbolt and the ability to fly, which will save us time in the final portion of the run. So with our final gym victory in red completed, we head over to the fan club house to grab the bike voucher before finally utilizing that dig TM we picked up, as the fan club house is also treated as a dungeon and lets us warp out to Cerulean where we can grab the bike. With this, we can speed through the next route and make our way into Rock Tunnel. Here we can finally start using those repels and make our way through the dark. And although I'm not an expert at this, the unlit areas actually aren't too bad in this game, still allowing us to see the walls and ladders. But there are plenty of great maps for this, or you can always bust out a good old unofficial guidebook to help out. Once outside, simply head through Lavender Town and the Western Route 8 to reach Celadon. Here we can make a swift shopping trip grabbing some super repels, potions, and the item that keeps popping up in our challenges, a Pokédoll. After that, head to the roof to grab a fresh water and soda, which we can trade for the powerful Ice Beam and Rock Slide with the nearby NPC. With our shopping trip done, we head west a bit more to pick up Fly, which we immediately teach alongside our 2 new moves for Nidoking. Now we can jet on back to Lavender, head into the tower, and use our new moves to sweep both our rival and the handful of required channelers as we make our way to the Ghost. Now normally, we would use a Sylph Scope to get by, but we can utilize a little oversight using the Pokédoll to escape and complete the event. This allows us to access the final floor where we easily dispatch a bunch of rocket grunts to save Mr. Fuji, who generously gifts us a Poké-Flute for our efforts. And this instrument is exactly what we need to remove the final blockade of this run, as we head south down Silence Bridge and use the Poké-Flute to wake up the sleeping Snorlax. We can then simply leave the Lax and head south a bit more to find the Fishing Guru's house and obtain the Super Rod. With this, it is time to go find our duck, and although I mentioned our gym victories were done, we do have one last gym visit to make. In particular, Cerulean City's gym has a rather unique attribute in a few games, being that it contains fishing encounters in its water. And not only that, the encounter rate beats out every other location in Kanto, funnily by a whole 1% when comparing to the nearby and accessible routes 24 and 25. So we simply fish around in the gym for a bit before catching our first Psyduck in need of some saving. Heading over to Generation 2 in the Johto region, we choose Gold version as a way to better match our duck. For this journey, we again start by picking the Water Starter and Totodile, who will remain our lead during the run. Simply head out to meet Mr. Pokemon on behalf of Elm, take on the first rival battle when backtracking, and report about the events. From here we can really start our mission, the first step of which is to grab a Sentret for HM purposes later. Back on Route 30, we take down the required trainer and dodge the later one by taking advantage of our menu, which buffers spinning trainers in the direction they were last facing. After this, we spend a bit of time gaining some levels to prepare for the gym, since our Totodile is far from optimal stat-wise, and then proceed to take down Faulkner's birds with Rage. We then make sure to heal at the center and grab the egg from Elm's assistant before heading down Route 32, earning just enough levels to learn Water Gun. With this move, the following trek through Union Cave is much easier, letting us clean up the required Hiker and Fire Breather without worry. On the other side, we reach Azalea Town, where we have a brief chat with Kurt, buy some recovery items and repels, then head down into Slowpoke Well. Here we find more of those incessant rockets from the last game, who are taken down with ease thanks to Rage and Water Gun. And with that done, we can head back to Azalea Town to take on the gym, raging through all of Bugsy's bugs and winning a surprisingly useful move in Fury Cutter, which comes in handy right now when taking on our rival's Bayleaf, which can be a major drag. This new move will allow us to 3-shot the grass starter as long as we can survive that long, but with one of the toughest battles completed, we head into Elix Forest meeting the wrong duck again, but at least get cut for our sorrows, which lets us access the second half of the forest, picking up and teaching Headbutt, then exiting to Route 34 where we can skip all the trainers and enter Goldenrod City. This metropolis certainly has the most number of tasks for us to do for the run, starting off with picking up a speedy bike, and this time we can actually register items, doing so before heading to the treacherous third gym where we face off against Whitney. While this battle is generally considered difficult, this is actually where Fury Cutter comes in clutch again, powering it up on Clefairy and dealing a huge blow to Miltank to get our win. With the gym taken care of, we can finish up our chores in Goldenrod, specifically grabbing the Squirt Bottle, picking up the coin case underground to purchase an Abra at the game corner, and buying some X items. After this, we can use our new Pokemon to warp over to Violet City and head for Sudowoodo, where we use the Squirt Bottle, simply run away, and gain access to Ecruteak City. Although there is less to do here, we have a number of battles, starting off with the Kimono Girls and their suite of evolutions. However, beating them gives us a much needed reward for our Psyduck study, the Surf HM. But we can't use Surf outside of battle just yet. For that, we need to take down Morty at the gym, which is unsurprisingly easy thanks to those X items, Bite, and our new Wave Riding move. This victory gives us the Fog Badge, and more importantly, the ability to go surf for a duck. All we need to do is backtrack towards Goldenrod, taking on the mandatory trainers of Route 35 that block the way to the single body of water. There are only 2 encounters to find here, Psyduck at 90%, and ironically, Golduck at 10%. meaning we are basically guaranteed to find our target. Okay, well, maybe not guaranteed, but after a bit more searching, we find the correct duck and make our second capture. With 2 Psyducks down, we move on to one of my fave regions, Hoenn in Pokemon Ruby on the GBA. We start off by meeting our rival, who, although friendlier than the last, provides many challenges during a speedrun. After this, we can go save Professor Birch by picking up, you guessed it, another overpowered water starter, this time being Mudkip. However, we aren't quite at that point yet, and we need to gamble with the first rival fight, hoping for the best as we spam tackle. Once we win, we head back to the lab, pick up some speedy shoes, and run towards Route 102. Here we battle a few trainers to help with our levels on the way to Petalburg, where we buy some familiar items, meet our dad and Wally, then watch a catching tutorial. With all this out of the way though, we're free to head through Petalburg Woods and over to the first gym, bypassing the double trainer thanks to them not having sight in these games, as was thankfully caught by some viewers in the last run. Now we can take down the gym trainers for some more easy experience prior to taking down Roxanne and her rock team with Water Gun. We now have to clean up a quick mess in Restorf Tunnel with a Magma Grunt, saving Mr. Briny's Wingle in the process and granting us a new mode of travel aboard their boat. Our seafaring first takes us down to Dewford, where we deliver some mail to Steven, catch a Makuhita and Abra for later, then continue on to Slateport. On the beach, we make sure to grab the soft sand to boost our ground moves before heading into town and dealing with even more magma madness. Here we show off why we chose Ruby, as Magma Grunts start using Nummels, which are no match for either of Mudkip's typings. With the grunts handled, we stock up on potions and repels, and then grab an important item for this Psyduck search, the Pokeblock case, before heading on to Route 110, where we have to take on an infamous rival battle. But with some X items set up on Nummel, we will just barely pull off a win. After this, we head through the rest of the route and into Mauville, grabbing a Rock Smash, and the fastest and final bike we will get all run. Now we heal up at the center before taking down Wally and the Electric Gym, which are all no match for Marshtomp. Thanks to the new badge, we can now use Rock Smash, which lets us pick up Strength back in Restorf Tunnel as a solid new move. From here, Abra can warp us back to Mauville, where we can now head north thanks to Rock Smash and all the way up through Fall Arbor and into Meteor Falls to progress the Evil Team plotline. Once again, we can warp back to Mauville, but this time head up to Mount Chimney, where it's time to take down some more of Team Magma, this time including an admin and the leader Maxie, all of which still have the Nummel line, which we will easily defeat. Winning here opens up the path south to Lava Ridge Town, where we take on another gym which we have an advantage over, that being Flannery and her Fire-type team. At last, it's time to wrap up some loose ends, warping back to Mauville and heading all the way down to Briny, who can ferry us to Dewford for an easy but necessary gym badge with Brawly, as we can now finally take on our dad at Petalburg Gym. From my experience, this proved to be a bit difficult, or maybe more so tedious, requiring plenty of setup before we have a chance at taking down the rest of the team. But this victory allows us to use Surf, which we will need to both progress and catch our third Psyduck. So we make one final warp to Mauville and surf east towards the following routes, and ultimately the Weather Institute. Here we take on our last Magma admin of the adventure, before the final rival battle, which still takes some X item setup, but isn't too dangerous overall. Now we simply head through Fortree City to meet up with Steven on the bridge, who helps us get past a hidden Kecleon, which is the last roadblock of our journey. All we have to do is head south and on to Route 121, where we can enter the Safari Zone, only, of course, if we have the critical Pokeblock case. Inside, we head north just a bit before taking the path west, climbing up to the pond and surfing, where we have a 100% chance of finding our Psyduck, meaning we are guaranteed to catch. Okay, I really need to stop assuming things will work in our favor. But then we find another duck who doesn't even have the chance to run away, as we throw one more ball and make our next catch. After the last 3 games each took over an hour, we can finally relieve our own headache a bit thanks to an easier run in Gen 4 with Diamond or Pearl. But we still have a bit to do, so we head out to pick up our first non-water starter, Chimchar, due to its superior stats and ability to handle the handful of battles we will run into. With our starter chosen, we slowly take down the first route of trainers before making it to Jubilife City, where we can take down some school kids in order to obtain Hidden Power, which has the potential to be a useful move if our stats line up right. So we head over to our first and final rival fight, find out that Hidden Power won't be useful here, but regardless take down the team without trouble. We can then head into Orberg Gate, where we pick up Rock Smash, which will come in handy soon. For now though, we test Hidden Power again, which looks to be, okay, not very effective against rock ground types, and then proceed into Orberg City, going right through to find Rorik in the mines, opening up the one gym we will need to take down. We head back with just enough experience to use the second gym trainer in order to hit level 14, evolving into Monferno, before taking on Rorik. Even though Hidden Power won't be of use, fighting moves will be more than enough to earn us the badge, and, more importantly, the ability to use Rock Smash outside of battle. Now, the lower floor of Oreburgh Gate is accessible, which you might have guessed contains our Psyduck, and at a solid 30% encounter rate. If we search around a bit, we will find our duck, and accidentally burn it to distract from its headache, and make our next catch. Generation 5 in the Unova region present a unique situation for our challenge, as once again, there is no native way to catch a Psyduck in black or white. Rather, you would have to breed a Golduck, which can be caught in a trio of locations, that being routes 11, 14, and Village Bridge. However, Black 2 and White 2 are a different story, offering the only catching opportunity for Psyduck in all of Unova. So we will play either one. And luckily for us, this journey isn't too long either. All we have to do is pick up a starter of choice from Bianca, deal with a few more tutorials, then breeze through Route 19, Flocacy Town, and Route 20. After that, we end up at Flocacy Ranch, where we can head through the first patch of grass instead of battling Hugh above, and search for the 10% Psyduck. Once we find it, we weaken it a bit before making the catch and finally finishing up a journey in Unova. Now we start the first of the 3DS games with X or Y, where we continue our luck of not needing any gym badges to find our duck. We start by heading out to meet our many new friends and grabbing Chespin for type advantage during our catch. After this, we make our way through the knockoff Viridian Forest, where we are forced to battle a trainer with a Pikachu, giving us flashbacks of our last experience in these forests. But with that all taken care of, we quickly head through the following route and into Santaloon City. Simply head east of the gym onto Route 22, where we have one trainer to battle before finding... Okay, well, we find a Psyduck, but not one we can catch until making it to the grass and searching around a bit for another 10% rate to find our actually capturable duck. Our next leg of the journey in Alola will be, well, let's just say extended due to the increased number of cutscenes and tutorials Sun and Moon contain. But nevertheless, we have a Psyduck to support, so we head out on our island adventure, meet back up with some Spearow who seem upset at our earlier trade, and go back to the old habit of picking a water starter for the longer runs. Then we can spend our little free time using the Pokemon refresh mechanic to start working towards an EXP boost, before going through a myriad of intro staples, including dialogue, a catching tutorial, 2 rival battles, and more before making it to our first center, where we can buy some repels and grab a free rare candy. But we are far from free of the intro, as we now are forced through the trainer school and the various amenities of Hau'oli City. After this, we get a bit of room to breathe and can buy some X items, which will come in handy for many upcoming battles. Speaking of, over at the marina, we meet Team Skull before fighting Ilima, where those X items are critical. After this, we run through Route 2 by making a careful skip of the early trainer and grabbing some new super potions from the cafe at the end. Now we are ready to take down the first trial, where both the choice of game and starter really shine, since we will get to battle the Dark-type Alolan Raticate line in Moon, and use the Fairy-type spread move, Disarming Voice, thanks to Poplio to take them all down. With the trial complete, we can go check out Melemele Meadow before battling Hau again, this time taking the chance to really utilize Poplio again by losing to Pikachu since the story will still progress. After this, we can head back to Iki Town to take on Hala, the final roadblock of the island. And this battle is no joke despite the advantage, so we utilize the rest of our X items to tank a Z move and do our best to finish off Hala's team. As a reward, not only do we evolve and get to ride Tauros the rest of the run, but we can also head to the next island. But before that, quickly grab a few more X items for the remaining battles if you ran out. Then we can take a shortcut to the marina, where we can finally set sail for Psyduck Island. Once on land, we can head down the road to meet some people we have never met before, taking one of them down and then heading through the brief Route 4. We end up in Paniolo Town, where we have another battle with Hau, but can follow the same strategy as last time, lose to Pikachu and progress the story. Now we can ride over to the ranch, get through some more dialogue, and then the rest of the area to make it to Route 5. Here, we meet Hau one last time, but not to battle against him, but rather Gladion. And this one is also a case where we want to power up with some X items on Zubat in order to safely take out the much stronger type Null. And thanks to our outstanding victory, Hau comes in clutch and gives us 3 useless revives. Useless specifically, seeing as our duck is just up ahead at Brooklet Hill. Simply head into the first patch of grass, where Psyduck's encounter rate is back up to a nice 30%. Once we find the duck, we toss a ball and complete our island adventure. Now, I know what you're thinking. We already finished Gen 1, and that's completely true. However, the Let's Go games have many unique encounter locations, including one for our headache-struck duck. So we get to live out the Gen 1er dream and head back to Kanto, this time with a predetermined starter in Pikachu. First thing of note with these games is that we can turn on movie skipping in the settings for an upcoming cutscene. Then, after wrapping up the relatively brief intro thanks in part to our movie skip, we head directly into Viridian Forest. And although we can't use free grass patches as before, we can simply dodge encounters since they are now visible in the overworld. Near the end of the forest, make sure to grab the lure and exit back out onto Route 2, where we can catch an Oddish, which will be both required and critical toward beating the first gym. Now we simply show off our grassy guy in order to take on Brock. For this battle, you likely don't need to bring in the second player and can just take it down with whatever Oddish you catch, but I was a bit worried about being underleveled, so I let Pikachu take some hits to secure our victory with some growth-powered absorbs from Oddish. We can then pick up a couple X items and heal before taking on the mandatory trainers on Route 3, picking up a second lure near a bush and heading into Mount Moon. Once inside, we run into... nice outfit. Anyways, we teach our Pokemon the TM we won from Brock, catch a few Pokemon for experience including a lucky Chansey, and take down the necessary trainers on our way to clean up the rocket grunts below. After this, we can take down the Super Nerd thanks to Pikachu's double kick before meeting back up with the Team Rocket trio. For this battle, the optimal strategy is to use our second controller to call in player 2, especially since our levels are a bit lower as we have not been catching as many Pokemon as you would in a regular speedrun. Nevertheless, we simply Thundershock away at their team while using an X special with player 2 in order to power our Pikachu. With the stylish rockets down, we can head towards Cerulean and stop at the grass just outside, as this is the new but not so far home for our headache haver. If you are lucky enough to see the 5% duck right away, go right for it. But in any other case, you can use the 2 lures we have to help see some extra encounters, as well as pick up the Great Balls nearby for the catch. Then once that poor Psyduck shows up, we can call in the second player to finally complete our time in Kanto. Moving right along to Generation 8, we have the Galar region with Sword or Shield, which at first glance you might think is impossible for our challenge since Psyduck isn't in the Galar Pokédex. However, the DLC Dex expansions do include it, specifically the Isle of Armor, and luckily for us, you can actually access the DLC areas as soon as we reach the wild area. In fact, there are a variety of speedruns that actually tackle this material rather than the main story. But anyways, all we have to do is get through the handful of introductory material, meeting Hop and Leon, picking up another water starter with Sobble, encountering the box legendary, and finishing up over at the professor's lab, after which we can use the station in Wedgehurst to go check out the wild area, which means it's DLC time. So we head back to Wedgehurst Station, at which point we need to make the most difficult catch of our entire run, the forced capture of Galarian Slowpoke. And I might be exaggerating a bit, but I swear, in testing this part of the run, no matter what I did, I always had trouble making this catch, and as you can see here, it still took many attempts. But eventually we make our catch, and at the very least, Slowpoke will actually be helpful in taking down the encounter with Avery once we reach the Isle of Armor. In speedruns, you would usually head to the Crown Tundra first to get a sneaky experience candy. But since we only need to take on this first encounter, it's faster to just take on Avery as is. Thus, Slowpoke can help out since it gives us another adequately leveled Pokemon while also being able to put Avery's to sleep, eventually winning us the battle. From here, all we need to do is run north past the dojo where we reach the Soothing Wetlands, and are now at a crossroads. Just to the east is Brawler's Cave, which contains Psyduck in blizzard, sandstorm, or fog weather conditions. And slightly further away in the opposite direction lies Challenge Beach, where Psyduck can be found anytime in the first patch of grass. With this in mind, Brawler's Cave would be a bit faster, making a quick date change for foggy conditions and simply search around for our duck. Except it apparently isn't so easy. First of all, the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra regions have different possible weather conditions and associated dates, and wait, snow conditions aren't even possible in the Isle of Armor anyways. Well, regardless, it turns out all weather conditions for Psyduck actually require prerequisites during the main story to unlock, so that should explain why we can't find our duck. The restrictions for fog are not present in the Isle of Armor or the Crown Tundra. What? Okay, so after a lot of digging, I did learn that the Kubfu quest needs to be completed to make the weather condition hit all open areas. However, I have no explanation for the cave weather spawns and can only imagine these exist in the game's data but are inaccessible since the weather won't actually change inside the caves. But if anyone knows how to find a duck that isn't goal here, I would love to know. But for now, all we need to do is head over to Challenge Beach and find Psyduck in the grass just to your left, throwing a ball and making our totally not at all complicated capture. And now, we have another new addition to our challenge, with Legends Arceus. This game is another departure from the standard gameplay, but certainly can't stop us from catching our silly Psyduck, so we start our journey, waking up in the past where we meet Professor Laventon, who seems to share our sentiment for helping Psyducks as pointed out in the professor's dex entry of the duck. Thus, Laventon will help us on our way, teaching us the new catching mechanics and getting us set up in Jubilife Village with the Survey Corps. We then pick up a Cyndaquil and go out on our first mission, making sure to drop off all our Pokeballs in the storage nearby before getting stopped by Volo to learn about battling. After this, we head out to the Obsidian Fieldlands, where Akari will gift us some Pokeballs since we don't have any, and we go through a few tutorials, making sure to grab the apricorns along the way. With this phase of the intro complete, we can finally get a uniform and go meet Commander Komodo, only to be thrown across a room in combat. Anyways, we are now able to craft, making some more Pokeballs, and then heading out on our first true mission in the Fieldlands. We start by going through a few more tutorials, but catch some Pokemon along the way. And with that done, we can go work on getting our first star. A fast and relatively reliable route to complete this begins by heading up the hill near camp, then catching another Shinx and some Wurmple as we make our way over to the Florero Gardens in the northwest. Here, 3 Beautifly of a higher level can be found and captured to gain another dex entry as well as a significant amount of experience. So much so that we can head back to camp, then evolve Starly, Shinx, and Wurmple to give us enough Pokedex progress for our next rank. All we have to do is head back, talk to Silene, and get our star. The next day, Akari wants to have a battle, so we fly to the training grounds and use the new battle styles to take down Pikachu. We are now free to head on to the next mission, flying to the front gate and heading back out. Roll on down to the bridge where we can now cross thanks to our new star, and use Luxio to take on Mai's Munchlax. At this point, we are tasked with heading up towards Deer Track Heights to continue the main story. However, if we run around the west side of the heights, we can make our way to the Tidewater Dam, booking it past the Alpha Bee barrel guarding the area, and into the Heartwood. Here, we can follow along the river until we finally find who we've been looking for, sneaking up and catching our historical duck. Finally, we finish off our runs in Paldea with either Scarlet or Violet, and thankfully this last one will put us on cloud 9. All we have to do is begin our journey finding a not-so-Psyduck, complete the basic tutorials of the game on Poco Path, and then head out to the first part of South Province 1. We simply run up the road, find the OG duck, and make our final catch. And with that, our headache-inducing challenge of catching a Psyduck in every Pokemon game concludes, summing to a relatively swift 10 hours, 4 minutes, and 27 seconds. Here's a ranking of each purposefully planned out catch, which is of course more than Misty could say. And plus, all of our data and research must be critical for supporting Psyduck, so thank you all very much for contributing to this study. If you have any feedback or ideas for challenges I should try, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to finish the next one.